Good evening. Welcome to Trending at 10 p.m. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, imagine walking around your home to find your feet and clothes covered with a black dust. Now, many of you would be saying, not a big deal, it's probably just household dust. Except in Whitefield near Bengaluru, it's not normal dust at all. It's graphite dust, the same stuff you find on the tip of a pencil. It's poisonous, and when this dust enters your lungs, it could be deadly. This is a reality in the lives of people who live here. You can see those images on the screen. Just look at that. They point fingers at a very large Indian company, Graphite India, and insist that their poorly maintained plant and awful emission standards is ruining their lives. On this program, we speak to the residents of Whitefield and bring you a special ground report. We've also reached out to Graphite India, who've chosen not to be a part of the program, but they have sent us a statement, and we look at that. And then we'll broaden the discussion to look at the dangers of pollution from industrial and other chimneys across the country. First, some of the big stories on ndtv.com. The incoming Chief Justice, Justice Ranjan Gogoi, says India's constitution is strong enough to hold the country together. Constitutional texts offer principles from which it's possible to construct answers which are suitable for our times. The Delhi High Court frees the activist Gautam Navlakha from house arrest. He was one of the activists accused of being a Maoist sympathizer who these people apparently a threat to our country. The Enforcement Directorate seizes Nirav Modi's assets abroad, 2 New York apartments and 1 London apartment among property worth crores. Well, let's quickly move on now to our top story. Tonight we are looking at the situation in Whitefield in Bengaluru, where citizens who live here say that for more than a decade, in fact much longer than that, they've been complaining about air pollution. How in the middle of the night, PM 2.5 levels go above 200 at 2 a.m. in the morning. Why is this happening? They say there is a plant in the area that belongs to Graphite India which is causing this pollution. Here is this ground report from my colleague Maya Sharma.
Wipe any surface of Brunda's house in Whitefield, floors, walls or even plants, and despite the frequent cleaning, your fingers will be blackened.
If you look at the dust here, you see that when you sharpen your pencil, whatever graphite dust comes, the ones that you've seen on the school days, the same is seen here. It would be seen on our foot, on our chappals.
But this is more than just an issue of cleanliness. There is a health impact too.
So 2009, I was here, and by the end of 9, beginning of 10, I was already diagnosed with a lung impact. So when x-rays were taken, there was a lesion in my right lung, and it keeps irritating because your breath is not full. I can't do my exercises, I can't do my yoga in a full stretch. It stops me from doing that. On top, my son and my husband, who were not at all allergic, they start to sneeze out. Exactly around 2:30 to 3:30 or 4 in the morning, that's when we get a pungent smell.
In the middle of the night?
Middle of the night.
This factory in Bengaluru's Whitefield is a very sore point for people living close to it. It was set up back in the 1970s. Bengaluru hadn't really reached here yet. But now, it is a very busy commercial and residential hub.
We face a heavy amount of pollution. We are not talking about the particular pollution that is caused by vehicles and other things. We are talking about a very particular pollution pertaining to this industry called Graphite India. There is this black soot which gets released out, and that fugitive dust is everywhere in our homes. Kids are suffering from asthma, other various health issues, mainly because I would say prolonged exposure. We went to NGT. NGT court has been taking a while. It's been 5 years and we are still waiting. So that's not done for us. So where do we stand? We don't have justice from them yet, and we don't have relief from the pollution either.
Graphite India, when contacted, did not want to comment on the issue. The State Pollution Control Board has taken notice once again and inspected the factory earlier this month.
we have been campaigning for more than 20 years, the people who have been living around Whitefield here. And now as more and more people have started living here, more and more residents, more and more companies, you can see the problem has just continued, and Graphite India has been told to repair that unit for the last 10 plus years. And it's not been done.
Right across the road from the factory is actually a hospital, which only makes matters worse.
How much we clean also, the good name will not come because of this Graphite India. From last 6 years I am here. We are continuously doing the cleaning, everything.
I've been working here for the last almost 10 years, and the last year or two there's been about 35% increase in the respiratory problems in children. So when I say, I do understand that pollution adds to it, and particulate matter plays a big role in adding to the pollution. Sometimes when kids cough and they throw up, they do find black residue.
Whitefield has changed so much over the years. Decades ago, when the Graphite India factory was set up, this was all agricultural land, but farmers soon began noticing that their crops were getting affected. Now it is an enormously busy area with offices, residences, and the pollution continues. Residents have been trying for years now to try and get the company to clean up its act. With Jem Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Well, we have tried to reach out to Graphite India. They sent us an email today. They chose not to be part of the program. I'm going to read out some main parts of what they have to say. The matter raised by the complainants was already decided in the company's favor by the Karnataka Appellate Tribunal in June 2013. The complainants thereafter filed an appeal before the National Green Tribunal in Chennai. This appeal has still not been decided. In these circumstances, when the matter is sub judice, it would not be correct on our part to participate in any media discussion. And then there is this part. All that we can submit is that emissions from our Bengaluru factory are within the norms prescribed by the Pollution Board. As regards ambient air quality, besides emission from the factory, emissions from other sources including heavy vehicular traffic, construction activity, other industries, and now the ongoing metro work must also be taken into account by the authorities. But what explains that black dust which people say can only come from a graphite plant? Joining us to look at this situation and the larger issue of emissions from chimneys in the country, we're joined by Zibi Jamal, a member of Whitefield Rising. She's leading the effort for justice, because it's ultimately a fight for justice in this area, the right to breathe. Tanveer Ahmed is national spokesperson for the JDS. Sunita Narayan is director for the Center for Science and Environment. And I'm also joined by Dr. Robert Roeder, lead scientist of Berkeley Earth, which has just come out with a report on air pollution and the situation in India. But let's focus on the immediate situation at Whitefield. Zibi Jamal, when the company Graphite India tells you that, look, there is heavy vehicular traffic, construction activity and metro work that's responsible for the air pollution, how would you respond?
So yes, I would say that Graphite India, the junction itself, the junction is called Graphite India. There is metro work, there is a lot of traffic. But what we have done is locally we have actually developed air quality monitoring unit, which actually conforms to global standards. It's called Air Care. And we have been monitoring the PM 2.5 levels at this junction and 12 other locations in Whitefield. What we are seeing is that the trending pattern for PM 2.5 does not conform to the other locations. So the PM 2.5 levels at Graphite India Junction actually goes up very early in the morning, like 2 a.m. We have recorded numbers as high as 381, when the standards in India by the Central Pollution Control Board is 60 micrograms per cubic meter. There is no explanation for that. And as you rightly said, where is this graphite dust from, right? This is a fugitive dust that is escaping from the factory. As you saw in the report that Maya filed, it showed the graphitization unit where the main process takes place. the roof is broken, the side panels are missing, and it is to this space that the fugitive dust is escaping. And they have not yet fixed that. How can they continue to do that?
Sunita, you know, we'll talk with you, of course, of the larger situation, but when you see those images and when you see black dust being, you know, on shoes, on pieces of cloth, you know, I mean, how desperate is that? I've never seen something as outrageous as that. Not even in Delhi, you don't get black dust per se. Over here, it's black, potentially graphite. What does that say about industrial emission standards in this area?
Well, it's, in my view, shocking, Vishnu. I mean, those kind of images clearly show that prima facie, it is very clear that there is a factory nearby which is emitting this kind of dust. Now, I also don't see that there is, you know, any major rocket science here. The fact is, if you analyze the dust, which is what the Pollution Control Board should have done, and maybe they've already done this, that should clearly show the source of pollution, because you can do speciation of a particulate, a dust particulate, and you can actually, if it's from the graphite factory, you should be able to pinpoint it. And I don't see why this case is dragging on for so long, but this is the crisis in India. This is really the crisis of governance in India, where our pollution boards are completely disabled today. They have very little lab capacity. There is so poor governance on pollution. And there is no way we can fight air pollution in this state. I mean, if something that is so clear, so black as this dust, we can't deal with it, then what are we going to deal with when it comes to Delhi, when it comes to Bangalore? In any case, everybody is only 1% of the pollution problem.
Sunita, isn't, you know, you use the words rocket science, you know, just basic sampling tools which can help anybody to actually understand what the pollution is all about. It's not rocket science, it's not prohibitively expensive, it's basic equipment, and yet we don't have something as basic as that. Isn't that also a problem? Our labs, you were talking about our labs, they are non-existent in most parts of our country, and these are basic labs. You're not looking at anything great.
If I could just jump in here.
Half a second, Sunita, go ahead.
If I can just, if you can, you have to differentiate. There's two kinds of analytic material that you can get. One is sensors, which, as the lady just told you, they have put in, and they are able to talk about the PM10 level, PM2.5 level, and they say there is a spike at a particular time, which is 2 o'clock in the morning. But the other is you need slightly more sophisticated lab equipment, which will collect this dust and actually put it through a lab test. It's not rocket science, it's not impossible to do, it's not so expensive, it just needs to be done in a proper calibrated lab, which I presume the State Pollution Control Board should have, where you do a speciation, which means you analyze the dust to find what is in it and therefore pinpoint the source of that pollution.
Zibi, just very quickly, Zibi, what is the State Pollution Control Board doing? And I'll get to Tanveer Ahmed, the national spokesperson of the JDS, in a moment. But very briefly, Zibi, what is the State Pollution Control Board doing?
Okay, as Sunita just said, right now what the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board is doing is they're measuring PM2.5 and PM10 levels. And they don't do this. This is not a random one. The Graphite India knows that this measurement is going to happen, and we are not fully convinced that the levels that they're saying are the correct ones. I think when the chairman, Mr. Lakshman, came to visit KSPCB, he actually mentioned that the sensor was kept at a different location. It was not the correct location. Now, to add on to that, at Graphite India, only the PM2.5 and PM10 is being measured. But the fugitive dust, this is the first time that Mr. Lakshman is coming there, and he himself was surprised to see the amount of fugitive dust and the coating all the surfaces around Graphite India. And more than that, there's also this pungent smell that residents have been talking about. They never measured it. So as of now, what KSPCB, where we stand right now, Graphite India Limited is supposed to get a consent for operation every year. As of now, they have not received this consent for operation from KSPCB, and it expired on June 30th, 2018. We are waiting for Mr. Lakshman's report following his inspection on September 9th.
Tanveer Ahmed, do you believe this plant needs to be shut down, or something more severe needs to be done to ensure that they clean up their act?
Vishnu, shutting out the plant would be an easy way. I don't think, shutting out the plant would be the solution. But however, since I am aware of Whitefield and I have really worked with a lot of NGOs in Whitefield, as soon as this information came to me, I had discussion with the concerned authorities in the government, and I am promising you at your channel that tomorrow this information would be updated to the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, because for us health of the citizen is of primary importance. As Maya Sharma rightly reported, this factory came into existence in 1970 when Whitefield was not even considered into Bangalore. It was outside Bangalore. Now Whitefield is the main Bangalore. I would like to promise to the viewers and as well as to the activists who are sitting out there, this information would definitely be taken by myself personally to the concerned authorities, and right action would be taken. If Graphite India needs to really do some changes to make things better, we would definitely advise them. And if shutting down is the only option left off and nothing can be done, and we would definitely consider about it, and we would not shy away from even shutting down Graphite India.
Tanveer Ahmed will hold you to this, and I would like to thank you for making that statement. It's a brave statement. And we're going to hold you to this to see if there is true justice. Not me, but people in Whitefield who are watching this program.
I want all these people from Whitefield who are watching also to hold me on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanveer. We appreciate that. We appreciate that accountability. Dr. Robert Roeder, lead scientist with Berkeley Earth, joins us now from Zurich. Dr. Roeder, when you've studied India, very closely the pollution levels. You've come out with a report which indicated that the number of days where we've had clean air in the national capital region has just been minuscule. Absolutely. How, in your studies, is it absolutely clear that when it comes to India, it's a mix of so many factors? It's chimneys, it's mobile, it's pollution from vehicles, pollution from trucks, and so many factors which contribute. So therefore, when one looks at a potential solution, it needs to be holistic.
That's exactly right. So we were looking at air quality around the world, including India. But the situation in India is some of the worst in the world. And Delhi is one of the worst cities in the world. The air pollution, what we did is compared the air quality around the world to US standards. And US standards are much more stringent than what the Indian government puts forward. And as a result, there were only 8 hours since 2015 where the air quality would be rated as good on US standards. But it is, as you said, it's a variety of sources. It's industrial pollution, it's vehicles, and in particular, a lot of it is the pollution from burning biomass. People burning crop residues, or people burning dung and grass and wood for heating and cooking. So you can see there the graph of the few good hours that have happened recently during the big storm that passed through in the 22nd to 24th. And yeah, by US standards, Delhi has about 300 days a year that would be considered above acceptable levels. And only a very tiny fraction is actually rated good.
Yeah, that's just such a sad statistic. Surita, when one talks about the National Capital Region, there is a ban on pet coke in the National Capital Region. How desperately do we require a ban like this in other parts of India as well? Because, pet coke, coal, we can't get rid of coal altogether. It's impossible virtually at this stage. Is killing us, isn't it? What is a realistic solution to at least getting rid of pet coke in other parts of the country other than the NCR, where we more or less done away with it?
Well, I think we definitely need to get rid of all extremely polluting fuels. Pet coke is one of them. We have got a ban now on pet coke use in the 4 NCR states. It's a very big victory. But to implement it, we also need to make sure there is a ban on the import of pet coke, because there's huge amount of pet coke coming in from the United States, exactly where we are being preached to right now about how dirty our air is, okay? So they're dumping their dirtiest of their product on us, okay? We are buying from the United States today their filth, which is something we should be ashamed of. Now we have got, through the Supreme Court, a ban on the import of pet coke. But companies like Graphite India, companies like all the cement associations, the Steel Association, the Aluminium Association are all beating down on the government to try and build loopholes into the import of pet coke. This is something we have to fight back on, because remember, we need to find a way to do combustion with something like coal, which we have to live with, but that requires us to have emission standards and monitoring. And the problem, Vishnu, is exactly as you've shown in Whitefield, is that our ability to monitor pollution today is pathetic. And I'm sorry to be so strong in my language, but it really is pathetic. You know, the government keeps talking about ease of doing business. So as a result of it, now states like Haryana have said that the Pollution Control Board can only inspect a factory once in 5 years. So we are told now that we are going to put up continuous emission monitoring systems, and they don't work. So let's be very clear, Vishnu, we are still not serious enough and we don't have the capacity to monitor emissions from chimneys. And as a result of it, either we move chimneys to cleaner fuel, or we have to learn to shut them down or die because we cannot get clean air.
Sunita, that point you were mentioning about how in Haryana you can actually enter these plants to inspect it once every 5 years is just an example of how implementing, you know, I mean, or enforcing, I should say, change on the ground, cleaning things up, it's still so much of a pipe dream. Zibi Jamal, one last word to you. Would you like to react to what Tanveer Ahmed had to say? He says tomorrow he's going to go to the Chief Minister, he's going to raise these concerns, and in a finite period of time, he believes these issues of yours will be addressed. What would you like to tell him? What would you like to tell the government who is watching?
Okay. Yes, and just before I make the point, I just want to add on to what Sunita just said. She talked about pet coke. There is a report in Money Control today which says that government permits graphite electrode industry to import pet coke, and that's today. This was filed today.
Yes.
You know, there is just no winning. Sometimes it looks like. Now, Mr. Tanveer Ahmed, he kind of mentioned the point that Whitefield was outside the city and it was a sparse population. Yes, it was, but doesn't mean that people did not live there. And the government itself, it was the Karnataka government which made it a commercial and a residential zone. What we are asking is for KSPCB to do its job. Right now, the burden of proof to tell the people to monitor is being put on citizens. We have to monitor air quality. We have to keep chasing behind the lawyers. We have to chase Chairman Lakshman to come out with a report, to come to Whitefield to do an inspection. I think Karnataka State Pollution Control Board needs to monitor this much better.
Okay.
The government needs to keep a
vigil of this situation. Hopefully that will take place. Tanveer Ahmed, literally 30 seconds. I have no time. Would you like to respond to that? She says the government needs to do a lot more.
Definitely it is government which really needs to do a lot more. We have the machinery in place. We have a pollution control board. We have all the boards intact. But since it is really, you know, your channel, which all of us really do respect, you take up causes which are closer to people and people's health. Definitely, I'm promising on NDTV that a right action would be taken. As you said, in a speculated time. And definitely, the first amongst is to update the Honorable Chief Minister on this issue. We would definitely ask Graphite India to come and explain their case. We'll do that immediately.
Okay. Zibi, I'm sorry I'm completely out of time on this program, but I'm sure Mr. Ahmed would be quite willing to listen to what you have to say. Hopefully there will be a solution. I'd like to thank all my other panelists very much for joining us, but that was just an example of one part of India where people are suffering so much. Look at it from individual cities, so many towns, our entire national capital region. Does anybody care about pollution, or do we just willingly die this slow death? Thanks for being with us. Goodbye.